Hi there. Welcome to our MadeTech team interview series. This is a collection of chats aimed to better understand what each role within MadeTech is all about and to feature the great work members of our team are doing. My name is Cami and I'm the content writer here at MadeTech. Today I'll be talking with Harry, our head of design based in our Bristol office. Harry, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. It's still quite chilly, but it's all right.
Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. So let's kick things off with a little bit about you. Outside of work, what hobbies do you have?
So I'm quite into trying learning the trumpet at the minute. I just think it's a really kind of like joyful instrument. And so, yeah, my partner got me some trumpet lessons a few years ago. So I'm still trying to keep up with that. I've also, it's kind of a work thing, but kind of not. But I've got this like website of photographs of wheelie bins called govbins.uk. That's kind of mushroomed a bit over the last few years. And it's been in like Creative Review and The Guardian, and lots of people submit stuff to it now. So it's quite, what was really just a silly side project kind of turned into something else. So that takes up a bit of my time, but not too much, luckily.
Amazing. I'm sure our viewers are going to have questions about that later. So tell us about your life before you joined MadeTech. Had you worked in the public sector before?
Yeah, quite a lot of my professional life's been in the public sector. So I worked in the NHS for a couple of years, particularly a clinic that treated people with gambling problems, and I was kind of the first non-clinical member of the team. That was Tim, who ran reception, and actually that was probably the person I worked with most, because me and him kind of worked a bit on like what were the common things people were coming to the clinic with and trying to figure out some of that stuff. And then I went to go and work at the government digital service. After that for a few years. I mostly worked on design patterns on the design system. It didn't have a name then, but we just called it patterns and guidance, and it's kind of turned to design system since. Then I worked at my friend's design agency. We mostly worked with like tech companies like Google and DeepMind and things like that. And then before I came here, I worked at the Red Cross for 2 years, mostly working on like fires and floods, and a lot of like, there's something called the Civil Contingencies Act that kind of ties the Red Cross in with the government when like big emergencies happen. So I was kind of looking at a lot of that kind of stuff. And now I'm here.
And how long have you been at MadeTech?
This is week 5.
And how did you find out about the company?
I think it was like this time last year when we are kind of finding our feet a bit with being in lockdown, and I just saw some tweet about the virtual visits tool that we really quickly built for an NHS trust, and I was just really impressed the kind of speed and quality something got built. I was like, oh, something's interesting there. And then my kind of pure coincidence, well, not, I don't know if it's coincidence, but like Tom Taylor, who's one of the market principals at MadeTech, kind of got in touch because I think I'd requested one of the books. I'm like, oh, right, MadeTech looks like they're making stuff in an interesting way. I'll take one of their free books. And then me and him just had a kind of coffee in Bristol somewhere. And yeah, but I said, oh, you got any design positions going? Oh, we don't really do design yet. And then yeah, and then things kind of followed on from there, really.
Awesome. So this is going to be fresh in your mind. What was your interview process like?
So first, I think it was just like kind of informal chats, because I didn't actually know anyone at MadeTech really. Like I only kind of knew Tom through ordering a book, so I didn't kind of know anybody at the company. I had a few like informal chats with Luke, who's the CTO. I kind of had some slides prepared, which I don't think he was expecting, but I just kind of talked him through some of the like work I'd done in the public sector and kind of technology more broadly. And then we had a couple more formal interviews, and met more members of the team, and then yeah, kind of got offered the job, and then yeah, came here a few months later.
What does your role here involve?
I guess it's probably like 3 different things. So one is kind of like a creative role, like what should public services be like? How should they achieve outcomes for people? How are we going to really make technology work for people? Because ultimately design is the kind of point at which like humans meet technology. And so I think so that's kind of a big part of my role is going to be like, what's the kind of creative vision for how we do public services and how we design them, especially with technology, it's kind of really blurring our ideas of like what institutions are, the boundaries between them, responsibility, how much you can interact, the speed at which stuff can happen. So that's a big component of it. I haven't done so much of that yet because there's been other stuff to concentrate on. The second one is kind of more like management. So that's like spending time with different people who report into me, understanding how to help them grow in their roles, help them understand like what things need to happen in their teams, setting up like a structure for people to grow into. And I guess the last one is kind of like operational. So that's kind of things like pay bands, line management. It's all the kind of like big and small stuff you see in the background, make sure we have proper tools to collaborate on as well. So I think they broadly fall into those three buckets of creative, management, and operations.
Awesome. What do you like the most about your role?
I think the variety of work that Maytech does. I really love the public sector, and even just this morning in our weekly design meeting, we had people working teams that looked at support for witnesses in court cases, safety beacons. So if you have a boat and you need to get rescued, you kind of press this thing that looks a bit like a torch and the Coast Guard will come pick you up. Like a care register, because the government isn't able to go and contact everyone who's doing a care role, and that kind of got highlighted during sort of this time last year. Yeah, just the kind of variety of things we're working on. Another team that was present this morning is like looking at better decisions for social housing policy. Just, I think I'd forgotten, because I kind of been slightly out of the public sector for the last 4 years, quite how broad everything we're involved in is. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite thing, is like the variety. And I guess as a step on from that, it's like making space for others to do really good work. I think I get a real buzz from kind of making sure there's like space to do design. It's kind of like the invisible bit design. Everyone kind of sees all the nice, interesting prototypes and things that we use, but actually the kind of space that needs to get made to enable people to do really great work. I think that's kind of the invisible bit, but kind of just as important.
Moving on to the challenges, what are some of the most challenging things you find about this role?
I think trying to strike a balance between stuff that needs to get addressed really urgently versus like trying to make more time for like thinking and being strategic. I think I'm not comparing myself to this person, but I think like Barack Obama said he really needed to like block stuff out, so he wasn't like fighting. Not because there isn't really many fires to fight here at Maytech, but if I don't block enough time out, then it wouldn't be enough time to like focus on the strategic things. So I think that's probably a challenge, but I think that'd be the challenge of any kind of sort of role. And I guess kind of design more broadly during the pandemic, I think there's having time away from screens when a team's trying to get to grips with a shared understanding of a problem or an idea. At the Red Cross, we used to have like team days where people weren't allowed to have their laptops. We'd all just go down to a big wall and really talk about what we'd learned that week in research and testing, and really just like talk and listen and build that shared understanding. And I think it's so difficult to do that at the minute. I make a point of like turning Slack off. Like I've got Slack off at the minute because it's a bit of a distraction when trying to do things. So I think the kind of all the tiny distractions are not conducive to everyone getting a shared understanding of something.
Do you have any advice for anyone who wants to join your team?
Yeah, I think first, like just have less things in your CV, in the links you show. We've kind of made a point of like letting people like share an example of their work, not like a portfolio, because I think that's kind of biases towards people that have lots of time to prepare a portfolio, but just like a link. So just like have something you can show. It could be a blog post, it could be a link to a website you've helped been involved in the design of. So just have something you can show, because we want to understand how you work and how you think. Another thing as well, just like try and just have less words. I think like everyone I think there's, the design idiom of being like less is more. It genuinely is more, and especially if I'm myself and the talent team are having to look at lots and lots of applications, someone who's just really spent time describing what they've done is really, really helpful. In fact, I get a kind of sigh of relief when I see like a website that says really crisply like what you're interested in. And I guess lastly, just like talk about like what problems you're interested in. Like, as I kind of said earlier, like the public sector has so many interesting problems to work in and on, and I think just have a kind of curiosity about that as well. Like I think that really helps us like understand that you're interested in problems, because that's where design starts, is like understanding the problem.
What do you like most in general about working at Made Tech?
I really like the kind of emphasis on problem solving. I've worked in a couple of places where there's a kind of what's the word, like attitude of like feed the devs, like we need to have enough decisions made that we can start building stuff. And I've seen a super appetite for engineers to want to really solve problems and be involved in research. So I think that's something I've really enjoyed. And when like Rory or Luke talk about us building services to create outcomes, I genuinely think like that isn't just held by designers and researchers, that's held by the whole company. And I think I really like that.
Amazing. And final question for you. Do you have any books or resources that you would recommend for someone interested in a position in your team?
You know, someone who's interested in design might already be aware of this, but there's a really great book called Good Services by Lou Down. Lou, in fact, gave me my first like design job in government many years ago. It's a really great grounding in like what makes a good service. Most design books focus on process rather than actually talking about the thing we're designing. And Lou really nails like what actually is a good service. So I recommend that. For people who are a bit more interested in like the slight more like design management side of things, I'd recommend Org Design for Design Orgs by the O'Reilly Press House. That's a really good book. So is Making of a Manager by Julie Zhu, who was the sort of one of the first designers at Facebook. It's not about someone trying to like scale a whole startup. It's like what, you know, when you first become a manager, like what kind of things should or shouldn't you be doing? And she's got a really human way of writing, which is nice.
Thanks so much, Harry, for taking the time to chat with me today. It's been really interesting hearing about your experiences here, your bin blog, and what your role is like. If anyone would like to get in touch with Made Tech or has any more questions for Harry about his role here, then I'll add our contact information in the description below. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. And be sure to stay tuned for our next Made Tech team interview coming next month.